Hey there, good morning. Hey, I'm your host, Jeff Ski Kinsey, and this is the LiveCast. And it's a special edition. It is Cyber Monday's LiveCast. How cool is that? So, here in the background, you might be able to see that it's actually feeding from the app I'm using on my iPad through my YouTube live feed out to the world. How cool is that? Hey, so what's new today? Let's talk about joint ventures. Okay? That's a topic I love to talk about. And I've worked on some amazing joint ventures. I think one of the most famous of all is something called SurveyLine. Let's make a long story fit into about 10 or 15 minutes. So, years ago, downtown New Philly, I have a company. I'm selling computers, I'm selling consulting. And in 1987, I start selling this application called ACT, A-C-T, with an exclamation point, by Conductor Software out of Texas, out of Carrollton, Texas, in fact. And so I then go to something called SoftTeach, I think it was, a distributor who I bought the product from, and they had a speaker, Mike Muni, one of the co-founders, one of the two co-founders along with Pat Sullivan from ACT, showing off the product, and they had a special deal. I think it was buy one, get one free. And so I did. I had one to sell, and then I had one to use. And so Mike and I have stayed in touch on and off over the years. I reconnected with him back in 2011 when I first rode on the startup bus. And I shared some insight with him, and he's like, wow, that's cool, and we hook up. And so a couple years ago, we had a fundraising effort in Stark County, Ohio, and I brought Mike Muni in as a speaker. And he gave a talk about how they created the original ACT database. And again, to condense this story, and I apologize, Mike, if I'm getting some of the details wrong, but they have this idea for a startup. I think they raised about $50,000, and maybe most of that was from one individual. And they get to the end of this period, and it's like, that dog won't hunt, okay? I think that might even have been Mike or Pat's exact words. And so they go to one of Mike's mentors and say, what do we do? The investors coming down from, I think, somewhere in New England to see what we're doing what should we do? And the mentor looked at the two guys, Pat and Mike, and he goes, look, you guys are smart fellas, right? He said, you got the holiday weekend, or whatever time it was. He says, why don't you guys go to breakfast in the morning and sit down and think this through? You got a little bit of money left. Maybe there's another idea. I don't know. But you guys are smart. Go sequester yourself for a couple hours and see what you come up with. So that's exactly what they did. And as I understand it, 4 years later, they got the napkin. In fact, the napkin that they laid this out on, and Mike has it, and he showed it to us. And they laid out the ACT database, the invention of the CRM, the Customer Relationship Management tool, ACT. And it was phenomenal. Back then, it was based on the Lotus 123 interface of sorts. You would touch the first letter of a command, like to get into reports, you'd hit R for reports. And it was RAM based, and it was extremely fast. And so when I had Mike come in and speak in Canton up at Walsh University, I brought up one of my colleagues from the Voice First space, invited a gentleman, Stuart Crane, to come up. Tom Monteleone, my partner, couldn't make it, and Stuart's partner, Paul, couldn't make it, but the two of us sat there and listened to Mike tell the story. And so I said to Stuart, I goes, what if the four of us locked ourselves in a room and came up with the next killer app for voice? Because we were both playing around with audio dashboards and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And Stuart said, that's a great idea. Where do you want to meet? So Tom is a member of the Worcester Chamber of Commerce in Worcester, Ohio. So we get a meeting room for 4 hours. We lock ourselves in there, and guess what? Lightning struck. And did it ever? We created something called Survey Line. That's right, SurveyMonkey for voice. And it is the killer app in voice. And that was a joint venture between Agile Audio Dashboards and Voice Metrics LLC out of Columbus, Ohio. Tom and I out of Worcester. It is killer. And they've went on to do all kinds of amazing stuff. It's powered by Voice Metrics. And they've turned this into a platform. They've done all kinds of amazing stuff with it. Okay, that's why I'm excited about joint ventures. Get the smartest guys together in a room and what some might call a mastermind session, and let them explore the possibilities. So I'm reaching out to you to say, what killer idea would you love to lock yourself in a room for 4 hours with me and maybe others to tackle something? Well, one of the things I would have tackled until a few months ago would have been a travel app for the motorcycle industry. But I happened to discover this thing. Actually, they discovered me on LinkedIn and reached out. I got excited about the product, what we call the Mo app. It's from a company called Ideas Motors from Latvia. I got excited about it and I said, look, I'd love to be the exclusive US of A reseller for your product. And so we worked out the details. And so you can do that. Go to the website, moapp.us. In fact, we've got a Cyber Monday special going. But joint ventures are a great way to leverage your smarts. But typically, and I was listening to Earl Nightingale, I listen to him almost every day, and he was talking about these mastermind groups, and it came out of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And they talk about getting 2 or more minds together and you start bouncing ideas off each other. It's amazing what happens. And I've done that time and time again. I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it at this. I've rarely been the smartest guy in the room, but I can start a fire under people. And guess what? Stuff happens, right? I've been able to execute on some amazing projects over my 30 plus years in tech, in hospitality, in the motorcycle industry. I told this story in my book, Purple Curve Effect, which I wrote in the winter of 2003, 2004. And I said, I fell in love with this bike from Red Horse Motorworks called a Corsair. And it's a gorgeous bike. And I says, I'd love to build my own motorcycle, my own custom motorcycle. I'd like to have my own custom motorcycle company. But I don't want to have a building. And I don't want to have employees. And I don't want to have all the tooling and the inventory and all the stuff that's required to create custom motorcycles. So I reached out to the owner of Red Horse, which was Brad. I didn't know it at the time. I thought he was just a sales guy. And I said, Brad, had you ever thought about building bikes, white labeling or black labeling, depending on your point of view? Have you ever thought about building bikes and labeling them as some other company's motorcycle? He goes, yeah. And he asked me the smartest question anybody could ask. He says, how many a year are you thinking? Brilliant. I said, well, I know I need at least one. And that's exactly what I did. We set up the deal, a joint venture, and I created a company called Turismo Cycles. And Red Horse built it for me to my specifications. This thing was killer. We actually launched it in 2005. The first model we built for myself was a model year 2006. It was a black and chrome Pro Street, just gorgeous. We used a Harley Davidson 88-inch twin cam, had a gel seat, had 6-inch pullback drag bars. It had Weld racing wheels on it. Gorgeous bike, absolutely gorgeous. What'd that cost me to get into the custom bike business? $3,000. That was a deposit I had to put down to create the bike to get in business. So that's the other secret. With joint ventures, you typically don't have to throw a lot of cash around. Like I said, you don't have to buy a building. You don't have to hire employees. You don't have to have tooling and dies and equipment. and all the expenses that go with that. So bottom line is, if I can help advance your efforts, then reach out. Let's talk about it. And the best way to do that is to pick up your mobile phone and dial pound 250. And at the prompt, say, contact Ski Man. I'll put you right through my voicemail, leave me a message, say, hey, Ski, let's do a joint venture. And I don't care what industry you're in, what you're excited about, anything except food and beverage. I don't do the food and beverage industry. I love to eat. I've been known to drink, but I cannot, no, I don't go there. So short of that, I did a cool project. We didn't get funded for a medical device. I've done a little bit of everything. Bottom line is, you have not because you ask not. So I'm asking you if you got a joint venture under your hat that you love to get some traction on. Let's talk about it. Okay? You'd be surprised what a couple motivated people could do. Get us in a room, put on the thinking caps, whiteboards on all the walls, and let's see where it goes. Okay? Cool? Great. And by the way, don't forget, check out the Mo app, moapp.us. There's a link there to download the iOS or Android. We got a Cyber Monday special running on a premier subscription. Significant savings there. Got some neat stuff. If we can help advance your efforts, you have to reach out. So remember, it's going to be just about as great a day as you make up your mind to make it. So join me and make it a fabulous day. Okay? Great.